I don't know if I perceive it because I'm more invested in this industry, but I do think it's much more serious in this industry than other cultural industries, like I don't know, like movies or music or whatever. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I think I
Um,
do, yeah. Because there's like I mean, there's also passion in movies or in literature or anything, but you're not gonna find like a community of people writing to Malcolm Gladwell like, I hate your book. I don't think that's happening. I don't know.
I think it's happening. Remember, I
Okay,
mean, I think
maybe.
there are plenty of communities that are shit.
Welcome everybody to episode 50 of New Game Experience. That's right, we are changing names because the other one didn't really align to what we're doing. It was kind of weird, but first try, first 49 episodes, that was one thing. But I'm sitting here with a couple of gentlemen, and we're going to have some good discussions. So I'm sitting here with my usual co-host as of recently, Cristian Caroli. How are you, my friend?
Doing fine, doing well. Can't complain.
Love it. I love it when you can't complain because when you do, it's so annoying. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
And
I'm legally obliged to not complain. By the way,
exactly
under
my
NDA. I'm just
contract.
kidding. Exactly. My lawyer said that I should not complain publicly for the next 2 weeks until the resolutions finally come to light.
And sitting here with us for the first time, Fabio. I was gonna say Fabio Leone. I don't know why, but Fabio Diaz. Welcome, my
yes,
friend.
yes. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And before we begin, I just wanted to, get to know you a little better, just to get a little rundown of what you like, what got you into gaming a little bit, and just what you're like, what you're about gaming wise, and whatever you want to share.
I guess if I should start at the beginning, like the N64 was my uh, first console, my first experience, and I think I was shaped a lot by that. And I don't know, like in terms of tastes, I think I like pretty much all kinds of stuff. Maybe not so much multiplayer games. I'm more of a story focused single player guy. But it's just, I mean, I don't know, it's just like so broad. I don't know how where to even start, you know.
Absolutely, no, yeah,
You like games.
yeah,
I like
you like
games.
games. That's
Yeah,
totally fine.
I like games a lot.
As an outsider, I can describe Fabio as an enthusiast
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
and as a spelunkier.
Yes, that is correct. That is true.
Well, you see
I
that already gives us a little bit of a like a
yeah,
okay, great.
like a bit of an insight. I'm a huge fan of a Spelunky, and I've been playing the second one like for since it launched basically, and haven't stopped yet.
That's awesome. From what I've seen on Twitter, like when you mention stuff about games and stuff, I see that you're also kind of a little bit of a Nintendo guy. Is that correct? A correct assumption?
Yeah, I guess I think so. Yeah, like I have like a very I think I connect a lot with the game design philosophy with Nintendo games. I don't know if I would say I'm a Nintendo guy, but I would definitely say I'm a Zelda guy, like
Okay.
100%. Like if if like they release like a Zelda pinball or something like that, I will buy it like for $60, no questions asked.
Be
But
careful what you wish for.
Be careful.
You're gonna get a cease and desist from
yeah,
Nintendo just for saying that.
it's like unconditional love. But I mean, like I have a PlayStation 4. I've had an Xbox. Most of my current gaming, I think it's done on PC. Really. Um,
Thank you, Game Pass.
yes. Thank you, Game Pass. Indeed.
Our topic for today is going to be a spicy one, as they always tend to be. But we're going to be talking about the state of video games media. So this encompasses mostly, yeah. I mean, it doesn't encompass everything in video games media because I believe, I don't know what you guys think. I believe that streamers and YouTubers are also in part of this ecosystem. And we're going to be focusing more on the traditional outlets like the IGNs, the GameSpots, and all those, because I think those are the ones whose validity, whose reach, and whose, yeah, all those things is kind of in question a little bit. I mean, we're gonna get to that. I would have loved, of course, love your perspectives on that. But before we go into like the nitty gritty and the specifics, what do you guys think when you think about this? I know it's very broad, and I apologize for having to throw a broad question to Fabio once again. Give me your general opinion on this topic in general.
Um, I think the first word that comes to mind is the state of affairs right now. It's kind of sad. Um, I think as a person, I mean, just to give a little background on myself, like I grew up reading those sites and not just reading them. Like I really grew up admiring them and like dreaming about working in places like that. I studied journalism and I majored in I did a master's on cultural journalism, with which is what video game journalism is really. And like I've always had like that connection in terms of like I'm not a journalist per se. Like I don't I work like in marketing, but I've always had like that appreciation for the craft, as they say. And I think what's happening right now is very sad because um, just not even to get into like the controversial stuff, and like not even to get into a discussion of which I imagine we will get,
Yeah.
but yeah, but not even talking about like yeah, like the politically charged stuff or the woke stuff. Just talking from a content standpoint, like from what they cover and what they say, and the stories they tell. I just think they've become so stagnant and even predictable. Like you can almost like you can almost like predict what a Kotaku headline will say when a certain game or certain thing happens, you know. And I think that's that's really sad. I do believe that the discussion around games evolved a lot at the beginning of the decade, probably like up until, I don't know, like 214 or 215, something like that, 2015, I mean. But since then, like it has just, it's like it's like what a TV show jumps the shark, like that expression they use. I feel it's exactly like that. And like they just like keep doubling down on that absurd and on absurd takes and just on a one-sided vision of things. So I think that's the thing that I find the saddest the most, is that they don't seem to look for a variety of voices and ideas.
Yes, it's all like a big echo chamber where they all say the same thing. You can even see how the headlines are like copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. I totally agree.
Yeah,
And by the way, I did not know you were you had studied journalism, which makes you even
yeah.
more valuable. So great, this is a great a great coincidence. How about you, Christian? What's your perspective?
I think it sucks.
That's it. That's all you're gonna say.
I think it's transitioning into something that it wasn't before. I think that the publishing industry, it's going through a very rough transformation. That it's gonna become something more plural, and these outlets, they're dying. They're economically, culturally, and fundamentally dying. Like even if I like them, I would recognize that this is GG for the publishing industry. I think that their business model is no longer profitable. I think that the content that they create is no longer relevant. I think they have been replaced by simpler mediums that are more relatable, personal, and probably mini echo chambers of themselves. And also, I do think that basically this kind of like mini culture war that it's happening in some parts of the media has taken over the mainstream journalist experience, and yeah, and it's just a matter of time before the reach and the influence that these outlets have become truly irrelevant.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think like you can see how they're well, yeah, I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but you can see how the reach is waning, how everybody is, well, at least on Twitter, which I know is not a good indication of where the humankind is. But like you can see how people are not really trusting these people anymore. They're not really listening to them. They prefer to, and this is what I always recommend to people. If you want to spend, or if you're looking to spend $60 on a game, or now $70, or even here in Europe, it's 80 euros, which I mean, it's considerable for a game. Uh, I wouldn't recommend an IGN. I wouldn't recommend a GameSpot or any of these people, even the ones I like, because there are some of these outlets that I do like. I think, for example, Video Games Chronicle is a very cool website that they always, like, they stay on the news, they stay on the point,
Yeah,
and yeah, exactly.
it's very good.
Very, very good. Also, Push Square, I think is. I mean, it's PlayStation centric, but it's also really, really cool. And you don't see this kind of shoehorning in of their perspectives, their biases, their political inclinations, or anything like that. Which I mean, sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't agree with these things. But the thing is that I don't think that even if I agree, they should be there, because that's not what I'm coming here to read. That's not what I'm coming here to consume or to get informed about. So yeah, let's try to get into the into the issues one point at a time. Which I know this is a very information charged episode and document that I sent you guys, but I appreciate that whatever you had the time to read. And so the first question I asked myself is, do these people even like video games? And I know this sounds like a joke, but I was reading some of, I put some examples in there where on one hand, you can see how it seems like they are trying to use video games, whatever it is they're talking about, which could be Mass Effect, could be Animal Crossing even. That's one of the most weird ones. And
Yeah.
they're trying to use it as a stepping stone to say something else. So what that tells me is that you're a writer, you studied journalism, you studied, I don't know, whatever these people studied, and maybe you didn't get a job at the Washington Post, maybe you didn't get a job at the Guardian. I have no idea. I'm telling the ones that are coming out of my mind. But you found a job on Kotaku, you found a job on Polygon. Maybe you're a freelancer and you tangentially like a little bit games, and you say, oh wow, this is kind of growing, so maybe I can find a job here. And of course, if you're not passionate about the medium, if you're not really in here for the right reasons, or if you're not familiarized with some of the things you should be to be able to write with, let's say, authority, or if you're just unconsciously trying to write about something else, this is going to come out. And I believe it does. Like in most of the examples I sent you guys, you can see this. So I know I've said a lot, but what do you think about this point specifically? Like do these people even like games? Let's try to just focus on that question. Fabio, you go first.
I guess I don't. I guess I can say that more than once I've read a piece where that what you are describing is pretty evident. Like I don't know if necessarily like a frustrated career that's taking advantage of games to write about other stuff, but there is like this feeling that they're not interested in talking meaningfully about the game itself, just like instead like giving away like they're writing some ideas, just using the game like as a channel to write about something else, like the the Animal Crossing article you I didn't read that. And it was like it was so funny. It was very funny to read.
It is funny. It is super
Yeah.
funny because it's almost comical. It sounds
Yeah.
like a satire. It almost, yeah, it does.
um to be perfectly honest with you, like a lot of the times when I read this stuff, a part of me is saying like I really do think, I mean, I can generalize each time, but a part of me does think that they are doing that on purpose, just like for the clickbait and the outrage and the and like what Christian was talking about just now, like about the business model, like it's broken, it's dying, and he's right. And just yesterday, I was reading like a thread from someone who quit from GameSpot.
GameSpot. Oh,
And
I
yeah,
have this thread here. If you want, I can read it. Or no, you finish your point. Finish your point.
no, yeah, no. I was just saying that, yeah, that was one example of that, and I do think that these sites feed on that discussion, and I think, to be perfectly honest with you, most of the time, and I don't engage with that type of stuff. I mean, you're not going to see. I use Twitter a lot, and you're not going to see me like complaining about this stuff on Twitter, because I just think that fits that culture and that. And I don't know. I can answer if they like games or not. Like I what I would say is that, which is what I do. Just don't follow the site, but follow the writer. Just like follow the names, like try to identify this person says or does, and that way maybe you can filter and like better get a better grasp of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Christian? What do you think about game
They don't like
journalists?
games. So there's a big difference between like your job and your hobbies and your passions. Like I think that those are like three different things, and in some cases they're like it's the same. Like there are definitely some media figures that I'm like these people are passionate about what they do, but then also the part where like things have to make money. I'm sure that that whole defund the Normandy uh, article about Mass Effect was probably like one of the most clicked articles in Kotaku the year that
Yeah.
it was released.
I believe.
So
Sorry
and
sorry to
that's I
interrupt.
think that's a game.
That one, just to clarify, that one is Polygon, but it's kind of the same thing. So continue.
Exactly. Sorry. I mixed them up, which is even worse. I think that the my point mostly, and I think that that thread, if I'm not sure if you want to put it in the description or something about the guy that left GameSpot. I confuse it with the stock
Oh yeah.
GameStop. Basically, it's just it shows that people writing these articles they're not happy with their jobs. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
if you're not happy and you're underpaid and you're under a lot of pressure, it's easier to like not give a shit. And there's also the idea that plenty of people don't go into these sites to get like confirmation on the things that they already believe in. Like they want to be reassured that gaming is the superior race and that their games are the best. And whenever they see something that affects their games, they're gonna react negatively to it. But most of the time, I see that obviously like negative and toxic backlash is never justified. But when you want to steer a discussion from a game as beloved as Mass Effect into, I don't know, police brutality or critical race theory, it's like you're grounding your discussion in something that is meant to be kind of like escape for reality, and an essay on itself about like I don't know, like human dynamics and whatnot, and then you just want to like put it in your own ground, and because you want to write about it because it's hip, because it gets clicked, and it's not aligned. I think that the game journalists are just not aligned with their audience. They I don't know if they like games. They probably like games because everyone likes games. Not all of them. I probably, if I had to review a type of game I don't like, I would probably kind of like be like, oh, crap, I'm probably not gonna get it. If someone were to say, hey Chris, do a review of Spelunky, I would be like, well, good game. Like it seems fun. I understand the mechanics, and I played a few hours. I didn't accomplish anything of value, but people seem to love it, and that would be my review. But there are other games where I could just like write for hours or just talk for hours, or like even video game creators that I think that they're personally inspiring. So it's kind of like it's different. But I think that they dislike gamers. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like these outlets, the people they hire, they dislike gamer culture. So whenever someone wants to put their opinion on their games, on top of like basically what your work, they get annoyed. And reading that guy from GameSpot, it's really revealing because it's what you said. Like they really don't want to be here. Like and that's the only way that you're gonna get paid for writing games is like by writing by some of these sites that They are owned by bigger umbrella corporations they're publisher corporations, and that's the payroll. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do it in your free time in a blog or tweet about it or have a podcast or something like that, and that's not what they want to do. So,
Absolutely. By the way,
they
all
don't like gamers. That's my answer.
yeah, that is. I think that's a fair assessment. By the way, just so everybody knows, I'm gonna include all the references that we're talking about in this description so that everybody's on the same page. I will also try to give context when I can during the podcast, but just so you know, it's gonna be also over there. And the Twitter thread we're talking about is Mike Rugo. This is the person that left GameSpot. This gives us a perspective that we can sort of imagine. Like, none of this is maybe such news, right? I mean, we kind of imagine the whole algorithmic thing, which is very frustrating. Us, we're us three are content creators, so we kind of battle this on a maybe weekly basis with our respective channels and podcasts and everything. And then there's the fact of the fans, which is something that Cristian mentioned, and I wanted to get into that a little bit because you say that these journalists hate gamers, and I would say you're right. They do, right? Like, they paint with a broad brush over all gamers. In fact, the word gamer for some people is even already like a code for gamergator, or a code for alt-right person, or a code for anti-feminist. You know, it's kind of weird because
I I don't know how, like, so yeah, sorry, just I don't understand how that became a charged word and at some point, but yeah.
once I was watching, because I used to watch a lot of kind of funny content, the company, you know, from Gag Miller and stuff, and they hired this person, and this person was saying, like, the way Cyberpunk was marketing itself. I don't know if you remember, but last year, before the game came out, there was another controversy around the game, which was the whole transphobic thing, where they were transphobic, and they were also anti-feminist, because they had this girl that was like in a tub and she was naked, and whatever. So they were saying, in kind of funny, that the way that Cyberpunk was marketing itself through the yellow images and through the deep dives before the game came out, they always used the word gamer. So the fact that they were using the word gamer was like kind of a code for people who were also approving of the transphobia and all the thing. I'm like, come on, man, no. I mean, I'm not gonna defend CD Projekt, but that's not what they were doing. I mean, no.
I mean, it's funny how that word actually became a thing, like regarding like inclusion, when in the real world, meaning like when you talk with people and you tell them that you own a PS5 or a PS4, it's so different to the lifestyle and commodity choices that they have, that there's definitely a gap there. Like, I understand that anyone that has an iPhone could potentially be considered someone that plays games, hence a gamer. But there is obviously like an enthusiasm and some type of basically like time spent around it, where you would say it's okay to say like someone's a gamer, and that game in particular was selling itself to a very specific audience, which was people that love the cyberpunk genre, and like they play the Witcher games and they want an immersive world, and it's not a game for everyone. And also it's something that we seem to have forgotten, because like that doesn't seem to exist anymore. It's like it's a game for adults, like we are adults. And the fact that there's a woman having an overdose in a bathtub is not something that cyberpunk invented. That's a trope. You know, it's the someone, so it happens in Pulp Fiction, it happens in cop movies, and they're like, oh, we need to put a needle in her heart, otherwise she's gonna die. And it's like, how is it, like, is it sexist or is it exploiting something? It's like, it's the fact that it belongs to an entertainment industry doesn't mean that it can have any type of edginess. But with that game, there were like so many conversations, especially regarding when the first interview came out about you could be a man or a woman, and then they were like, oh, but can you be something in between, or like, and then I remember, like, I don't remember if it was like the lead designer or like someone from PR from CD Projekt, that they were like, I don't know. And then eventually they were like, yeah, we're gonna have a slider for your balls. And that happened. And the whole conversation for a few months about that game was about transphobia, and it was so ridiculous. Like it was just they were just this guy, for example, the guy from the thread, he talks about the algorithm, but this industry has shaped to fit that algorithm without any complaint. Like they love it. That's their true passion, which is bending the rules for the clicks. So I think, and I empathize with someone having a shitty job. Like it's sad, but at the same time, writing like I was saying this to Fabio and some friends, even early in the morning. Like writing about games is not a human right. Like I'm sorry, you have to get another job. Like they gave this up, and technology has taken over, and there are streamers right now that are far more influential into what the next game, the next hit will be, than any news outlet. Like if you were given Among Us to IGN to review, they would have been like, "This is a mobile game. We're not going to review it," or they would have been like, "It's a 6." And until it wasn't, until it was a world phenomenon. So it's if you no longer have that reach, then you can't hire 50 people. Like what for? Like just to write stuff on the internet? You might be well off buying some blogs and then just linking them together for page views.
You know, I don't consider myself like a conspiracy guy,
Okay.
but with the cyberpunk thing, and I've argued this before, I do believe that the press in general was just off to get that game even before we knew, like even way before it launched. And I say this because I like picked up on a trend of like the way the press talked about that game. Like it was almost like they wanted to see it fail, and it was very weird to see. And I say this just to give context. I wasn't ever particularly invested in Cyberpunk. Like I'm not very interested in. I wasn't very interested in the game before. Now I am, but because of the whole like controversy, but of the disaster of the launch. But I picked up on that, and it's not like I'm saying that a bunch of journalists met up in a room and they were like, yeah, we're gonna destroy this game. No, but it's just like you could tell that. I think because CD Projekt is just, it's not an American company, it's an European company, so maybe they just weren't that afraid of the press like many other companies are. um, and like I think the press like picked up on that and just like made an enemy of that game. And I even question if the launch of the game was maybe a bit out of proportion. I'm not saying it's a good game because I haven't played it, but I'm saying that I I feel like there have been many other releases before, uh, which had similar stories, and like the disaster media wise wasn't as big and as, I mean, as wide as this. um I don't know. I don't know if these people don't like. I wouldn't say these people don't like games. I do believe that they dislike gamer culture. Yes, and I think that's even something. I don't know if you guys read. Kotaku changed editors recently. And Patricia, which is like Patricia Hernandez, which is the one that's editor in chief now. She wrote like a co-ed, like an opinion. I don't know. It wasn't an opinion piece. It was
A
like a
letter,
letter
yeah.
to the
Yeah,
readers. Yeah,
exactly.
It was like an editorial letter.
yeah, exactly. And like, there's a part where she even like kind of admits that and like faces that, like saying that this thing, like the press is antagonizing their own audience constantly. And I mean, like, I actually like Patricia. Like, I've liked her work for a lot, for a very long time. Like, I think she's written very interesting stuff. And when I read that, I was like, oh, maybe Kotaku, like, it's going to,
Change.
uh, not even change, but like maybe they can like
Stop.
Stop.
I don't know, like hire like a writer to say something different, and just like they released like the article about Far Cry, and it was like, ugh.
Yeah,
They doubled down.
that
Yeah,
was
you
a
said
that was
they
a bad
don't.
one.
I don't know.
But it makes sense to like there is a reason why National Geographic is able to charge 70 euros a year to people, and people pay for it to get the magazine. There is a reason why people subscribe to the New York Times, and that's kind of like a more viable business model. But no one in their right minds is gonna like get a premium account for Kotaku.
No.
Like that's not
Yeah,
something
I don't think so.
the audience, their audience, like if you're kind of like a wildlife photographer and you say, oh, I have a subscription to National Geographic, you're like, okay. But if you're like a gamer, whatever that means, or a streamer or something, and you say, I have a subscription to Kotaku, they don't have that, of course, because no one would use it. You would be like, why? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like that's and I think that she is true, and that letter is really, it's really eye opening, because it's like, what are we even talking about anymore? But it's impossible to do that change with the team that you have. Then it becomes something else. And I think that becoming something else, it's something that they should have to pursue. But also, these outlets, they are owned by umbrella companies and by publishers and by businesses that the model, it revolves around that. And it's a show, like it's a system that, if it's not about clicks, then it's a whole different thing. So it has to be about clicks. The people that they hire, the analysts they have, the numbers, the business plans, it's all about that specific algorithm based ad sale distribution. So that I don't see that fundamentally changing. I don't see them replacing the people that write for them. And I think that editorial letter was long enough for us to have seen some results, some changes, and that hasn't happened. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's really going to happen. I think that more than ever, like, they are losing the one thing that they had, which was kind of like reviews. To some extent, people no longer care what they have to say. It's spreading into a way that like companies are doing their own marketing, companies are doing their own promotions with influencers and stuff like that. And I think that a good, like, the Cyberpunk case, like, is worthy of like almost its own episode. But it's fun because, like, it began as a witch hunt of like, we're gonna, this game is for Nazis, we know it, we're gonna hunt you down. And then suddenly Cyberpunk started turning people into Cyberpunk ambassadors. And then suddenly everyone was super excited about the game, and it's like, look, you can make your balls bigger, oh my god, game of the year. And then it launched, and everyone was like, not really saying the truth because they had the embargoes, they had the whole thing of like, until the game launches, you cannot show the PS4 gameplay. And I am sure that there are reasons behind it that are not like conspiracy reasons. It's just like probably some developers and product managers were like, we are sure that in the day one patch we're going to improve the performance to a point that it's not going to be evidence of the game being shitty. And then they didn't. But but like but the press wasn't like, it was critical up to a point. Then it changed because they were in their pockets, to put it one way. Because in the end, it's not even a pocket. Like, being a Cyberpunk ambassador is something that I think Greg explained at some point. It was mostly about getting some swag and the opportunity to like have like exclusive interviews with the developers and the PR people. So it was a business. And business wise, Cyberpunk played their cards well, but I don't know, game wise, it was a disaster. So
Yeah.
we just see, even when we saw it collapse, I think that the games industry wasn't as harsh as it should have been. But most independent outlets were like, this is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, IGN and Gamespot were like, well, if you have a PS5, you can run it.
Yeah. And it's funny because the initial release date didn't even have the PS5 or Series X, right? Because it was May, remember? So
it was always there's no next gen patch yet.
Yes.
Like, you could play the PS4 version, and it had like frame rate unlocked and some things, but it was not the next gen patch. The next gen patch is yet to be seen.
yeah, totally. I think that, like, I agree that we could do a single episode just based on Cyberpunk because it's very interesting. But I think I agree with both of you in the fact that there was this kind of intention from the media previewing the game where they were like, this is transphobic and this is macho and this is, you know, like they were like pointing out things that, I mean, maybe it is somewhat transphobic, that they had like this poster of a like a prostitute that is a trans person, and then you can kind of switch whatever proclivity you
I
want.
think
Like it's something like that, right?
I think like one of the main points they were making is that the Twitter account for CD Projekt. I don't know if what it was is the Twitter account for CD Projekt or Cyberpunk. I don't remember, but they did publish like some bad jokes, like jokes in bad taste.
Okay.
I would say I can't remember them exactly, but I remember that was kind of the issue.
Okay. But then you have this, which like they kind of give them a little bit of material to for them to write all these things. And then you have the launch. And so it's kind of like a perfect storm of people having some intention and then the game actually being broken beyond being able to play it. So yeah, that's a very interesting case.
It's the perfect storm for people losing $70.
Yeah, that's the word. It was a perfect storm. I agree.
Totally.
So something that the first time I met Fabio, something he was talking about, and it's stuck in my head, is how the critique of a game is part of the game. You know, you could say that about kind of like the extension of any piece of artwork, like and even go beyond that. Like the community of a game is part of the game. The books, the manual of the game is part of the game. The walkthroughs you find in the online are part of the game. And that's why it's so bad that the critique of the game is in such a bad state when you look at the major outlets, because it ruins the game. Like it just makes you feel bad for playing a game. If someone says that, hey, you shouldn't play Mass Effect because you're technically a cop, then that's part of the game. That's part of the experience. Like it's related to Mass Effect. It's not really like it affects your experience if you are heavily invested in police brutality or whatever. Like it brings you to a different discussion. So it's very telling how especially in the case of games like with bad launches, that the critique of like how bad it is part of the game. Like and no one is in the same way that something positive sprouts out of it. Like the critique of Ocarina of Time, the critique of the whole exploration and the way that people do magic stuff in games like Breath of the Wild, and the cool things that the Super Smash community do, even without Nintendo's approval, they are part of the experience. So that's something very important to take into consideration when we complain. It's not that we complain because we're not you're out of my echo chamber, you should act like a gamer and say that, PC master race, and don't make me, you don't review iOS games. No, it's because when you're saying that a game I like is shit, and you do like a poor appreciation of it, you diminish my own experience. It becomes a discussion.
Yeah, that's that's totally valid, and I think we've sort of circled around this, but I want to tackle it, which is that the entire gamer, like the disdain for gamers, right? That we've discussed. And on one hand, I agree with Cristian with the fact that no gamer is ever going to say that they have a subscription to Kotaku, because if you subscribe to National Geographic, it's because you like nature, you like learning things. But if you subscribe to Kotaku, it's like, since they are so antagonistic, you're not going to get love for games or that thing which you get from a National Geographic subscription, which great analogy, by the way. So that on one hand is questionable, because I don't understand how. Oh, there you go. You speak with authority, my friend.
Exactly.
So on one hand, I totally agree that building your whole narrative around antagonizing your audience makes no sense. There is a Hard Drive magazine post which I retweeted as awesome that says ads for Kotaku are disappointed to know that everybody who clicked on the article is an angry person or something like that. But then you have the fact that gamers can be very abrasive, and gamer communities can be, I'm not saying they're all this, but they can be very hateful and very, like sending rape threats to people like Alana Pierce, which is something that has happened. I'm sure it's happened to her multiple times, but she recently like shared something and it was pretty awful. And things like this. So
And she's not even like a very controversial figure.
not at
No,
all.
like she's almost like widely loved by everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe
she
it
literally
was
just plays games and be like, "Oh, I like them."
exactly.
And that's it. Like it's just not like at the vanguard of any culture war.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was something to do with God of War Ragnarok. Like, she's at fault for the game not being shown yet. Like, makes no sense at all. But whatever.
Because she works for Santa Monica
Exactly.
now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she's kind of like she's not even like a senior writer there. Like she basically majored in literature and she has been working on with games like her entire career. And she joined, I think it was like last year during the pandemic, as a writer for God of War for the next one. And people were like, I mean, she talks about this frequently on her stream. Like, people think that she's gonna, like, I don't know, make Atreus woke, or like, I don't know, make Kratos a feminist. And she's like, she doesn't have that control.
I mean,
Like, it's
I'm,
impossible for them for people to understand. It's hard for people to understand like what video game development is until you actually kind of like experience it. So I can't really blame them. But thinking that she's gonna like jump in and shape the future of
Yeah.
the narrative, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
So stupid. But yeah, so what do you guys think about this other aspect of the gamer community, which is very, yeah, it's very brutal, very hateful, very abrasive. I don't believe it's the majority. I always say that whenever you see these fringe people, extremist people, I always think it's a minority, but it's a very vocal minority, and that's the problem. So what do you guys think about that?
I always think that when I read like angry people like
Fanboys.
online, yeah, fanboys, stuff like that. I always like I imagine it's like a 12-year-old writing from the other side. That's what I always do. Like, that's the mental exercise I always do, and it always works because it's like, what you just keep going. I think that is a reality. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I perceive it because I'm more invested in this industry, but I do think it's much more serious in this industry than other cultural industries, like, I don't know, like movies or music or whatever. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
I think I do, yeah. Because there's like there's also passion in movies or in literature or anything, but you're not gonna find like a community of people writing to Malcolm Gladwell like, I hate your book. I don't think that's happening. I don't know.
I think it's happening. Like, I think there are plenty of communities that are shit. Even more so, like political communities are worse. Like sports communities are terrible.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like I think that when it comes to like being invested, people can always be very shitty. But I do also think that it is a minority, but our brains are wired in a way that detect danger. If you talk about kind of like the harassment of like people working on God of War, the reality is like God of War has sold millions of copies, made an incredible cultural impact in the gaming world, and revived the franchise. And the vast majority of those people played the game, loved it, will buy the next one. Gave it 10 stars, cried when they were like pouring the ashes down the mountain. And there's also a bunch of idiots that they don't understand how the world works, and they were sending like death threats because they're gonna play the game 3 weeks late, like 3 months later, or some shit like that. From an incredibly optimistic first forecast of being launched this year, I don't know. It's just so ridiculous. But that's how our brains work. Like we see 100 positive comments, but we see one shitty comment. And if it gets through insecurities or traumas, then we will react.
Yeah, I think there's also
and if
science.
you're a woman and they send you
Sorry, I think there's also science to what you're saying, which is to invalidate a negative comment, you have to read like 7 positive ones, something around that.
I don't think you can invalidate it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just there.
It takes one.
it takes one good bad comment.
Yeah.
Like, even if
Yeah.
you're like doing like your PhD presentation, then everyone's like, congratulations, like people you've worked for 7 years, so like you're the best, it's incredible. And then this random guy comes and says, you know what, you're not that fucking smart. Then you're just like,
That's
Maybe I'm
gonna
not
haunt
that
you for
smart.
the
shit,
rest of your
that's
life.
haunt you
Yeah.
forever. You're like, my god, this
Yeah.
guy just saw through me. He understood what everyone else couldn't understand for 7 years. He knows.
He knows.
And I think that when it comes to like video game development, I recorded an episode of my podcast actually, yesterday, about Hideo Kojima. And and I want to say, like, there's something in video game development that it's such a big collaboration issue that we don't have kind of like people really responsible for their vision in the game. Like there are only a handful of people like Kojima, and across different, even within the games, they're such a smaller scale, but even there, like, you don't see kind of like the hand of the author, like how you see with him and some other people that are less known. And and the fact that you get harassed when you are not even Kojima, like you're just a random lead developer, or like an art director, or like Alana, who's like, she's a streamer and full-time writer. It's like, why, like, I don't, like, why am I like, it has to be so dissociating, because like, how am I like how am I getting this from the work that I am doing? Like, it's so unfair.
Yeah, it makes no
But I
sense.
think that as a community, as a whole, it's an incredible community. People befriend each other. People fall in love with fellow players. People do research. People, they are modders. There's active. There are only a handful of communities in the world that have such a deep, open and collaborative project development as the gaming community, when it comes to mods, when it comes to remakes, when it comes to like spiritual succession, levels of influence, the way it affects your career, views of the world. In the way that it introduces you to other stuff, like some games introduce people to certain political issues that otherwise they would know nothing about. So there's that. I think that the positive aspects outweighed by a tenfold or a hundredfold the shitty aspects.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're a journalist and you're not really doing your job, um, people are gonna shit on you. Like,
Yeah.
and it's bad they do it in a negative way. But people that have constructive criticism, they no longer care. So I'm not gonna go and comment on a Kotaku article or a Polygon article like, hey, I think that this should have been better structured, and we as gamers don't want to hear about defunding the police when we are not American. So you have to understand that you have a brother. And it's now people are gonna be like, fuck off, and meme around it, and then and then everyone gets a little bit more polarized.
Yeah.
But for example, like the thread from the guy from Gamespot, it's sad because that guy is gone. Like, he will no longer be. You see him, and he has like 4,000 followers, and he will like. It's not like he's going out and then he's gonna start his own podcast and make a living out of it. Like, he's just gonna do something else. Probably, I don't know, become a web developer or something, which is fine. But this is a man that was pushed away from his professional career,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that, if someone sees that and they think, yeah, we got him, like, ladies and gentlemen, you're an absolute piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's a super sad threat.
Yeah.
It's
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 super
sad.
sad.
Yeah.
This man dedicated 8 years of his life, to this industry, and it burned him out to the point that he will never again, um, work in a company like this, and he will do something completely different. His next tweet might as well be like, "Hey everyone, I'm joining as a, I don't know, performance marketing consultant in I don't know, Walmart, or in Grubhub, or like, I'm joining the startup," and then that's it, and then they're gone from that industry. It's not a battle that you want to win. If tomorrow Alana Pierce is like, "Hey, I'm quitting Santa Monica Studios and I'm just gonna like stream games," I would be sad. It's like
Yeah.
this woman had a fucking dream of being like a video game writer, and she can't do it because she was like bullied out.
And also,
Like
she's
it's
awesome at her
shouldn't be
job.
that way.
Like
So
all the work that I've seen her do, like whether it's a video or articles and her own podcast, it's really awesome. I really recommend everybody to
yeah,
check it out.
kudos to her. And I think that's a good segue into what's if this is not the future, then what's the future? You know, like if IGN goes down, then no one's ever gonna have an opinion in games. And I think that the next tier is influencers, is people doing their own things, people in control of their audience, of their publications, people like Last Media, like Alana Pierce, like I don't know, Lords of Gaming. They're also like doing a very amazing long form podcast. I don't know, like I think that alternatives are going to start growing, replacing them. And yeah, it's just that. Like if in the same way that you see some journalists playing, I don't know, what was it, the game? What was the name of the game? Cuphead, playing Cuphead and not even able to pass the tutorial. You will see people like Alana Pierce jumping in for the first time in Fortnite and having a blast and just making fun of like how strangely complex the game truly is. You know, that kind of thing, and that's great content. Like it's just
Yeah, I agree.
that's the future.
I think it's clear that the way the industry is going is towards these kind of companies, like you mentioned, Last Stand Media. Lords of Gaming is also one that I love because the guys are so funny. Like when you see the podcast, it's like 4 hours long, but they're all like it's like like us, like cracking jokes and everything. And they don't really worry about being politically correct or anything. They just say what they say and whatever.
And they love the games
Oh,
they play.
100%.
They love them. They really love the games.
I don't know them. I haven't listened to them.
Yeah, the
really
podcast is
cool.
called Iron Lords Podcast, and yeah, it's
Exactly, Iron
awesome. And they also have really good connections in the industry. I mean, they've had Jason Schreier in there, they've had Colin Moriarty, they've had Jeff Grubb. Like they invite some high profile people, and so yeah, I mean, it's definitely going in that direction because the thing that I always think about this is that these are faces that you recognize, and if you don't like these people because you don't really agree with their tastes or whatever, you can go to, there's going to be another YouTuber, there's going to be another streamer that's going to align more with you. Like for example, Fabio just mentioned that he's not much of a multiplayer guy. I'm not a multiplayer guy either. So if I'm going to be consuming a podcast with a guy that's like full on Fortnite, full on Warzone, that's not going to align with me. I'm not going to see anything of value there. But if I go to someone who's maybe a Zelda expert or maybe a PlayStation expert and specializes with Last of Us and God of War and all those things, that's where I'm going to be gravitating towards. And when you think of IGN, when you think of GameSpot or all these things, they're a faceless company. And there are people in there that you can learn their names and maybe follow when they review this or that, but it's not the same. Like you don't always know where you're going to get into when you click on their articles. So I think that's pretty valid. What do you guys think?
Also, like I think the entire, it's not only like podcasts in real life and like in real life interviews. It's also just exploring the games, informing the games, the walkthroughs, like the text walkthroughs where you like downloaded the file and then had like tables done with ASCII codes and stuff like that. That's cool. That's also like part of investigating the game. And there are plenty of channels. Like I'm a big fan. I think all the three of us were big fans of Dark Souls and the Bati videos, like about the lore of the game. That's journalism. Like he's just like a historian of Dark Souls games. And IGN, Kotaku, Polygon, they have never even thought about doing that. Like people like NoClip, that they make documentaries about the game, retrospectives about the game, like understanding the game. These are things that are not that hard to find because these are companies, and then companies have reports, and they some of them are publicly traded, so you even know like how much money they're making. And it's never like that. And like whenever there's like I used to play a lot of Hearthstone, and whenever there was like a new expansion, oh my god, they couldn't even write shit. Like it was just like a new expansion is coming, and it's based on this other thing in Warcraft, and that's it. Here are some new cards. And But then you go to the subreddit, you go to the other websites, and like people are like digging through the lore of the cars. How did they use them? Like synergies, like the competitive scene. Like they never done that, and it's so weird that that does not happen. The only reason why that doesn't happen is because they don't know, they don't care. Same thing for esports. Why isn't IGN kind of like the hub of all? Like why are they not the ESPN of esports? Because they just don't give a shit. Like no one's watching Worlds for League of Legends. They're not following the Fortnite competitive scene. Like if you want to find out about that, it's pretty bare bones and it depends on the companies, but they could do that and they don't do it. Like that's the other thing. Like we have been talking like this little space which they suck at, which is like opeds and reviews. But then there's so much that they could be doing, and they don't do it. And they're like, "Why are we dying?" Because you literally are being replaced by friends having friendly banter during the weekends.
I
And,
think
and if you're good enough, you can even buy your own house by doing that. Like it's just crazy.
I think it's also fair to to play like a bit of a devil's advocate here. It's also fair to say that they rely much more on the news cycle than like the daily news cycle than like
Hmm.
if you go to YouTube or like Patty or whatever other games creator, content creator. I mean, um, and I don't know. I guess yeah. I mean, I would say I don't think those type of media, those types of publications are going to disappear completely. I mean, what I do believe it's going to happen is that many of the small ones are going to just disappear and die, and then we're gonna get like maybe I don't know IGN because I mean it's hard to imagine a world where IGN doesn't exist, but it can happen. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we're just going to be left with a few of them, and that the type of things that you guys were saying when it happens a lot like this and I think it's pretty bad when it happens on reviews, like when you read a review and it's very clear that the reviewer doesn't have like previous knowledge of the franchise or the genre of the game he's playing. uh, I think that's a bit unavoidable in those types of sites because they're not specialized. Like there are like literally like general media. Um, I think it's a bit more understandable if you're like reading news. Like a certain game just launched, and maybe they don't go that in depth in the history, but it's just like they rely a bit more on that daily news cycle. But the reality as well, and again just to play devil's advocate and to maybe get the idea out there that these types of places do have a space in the industry, is that I consume a lot of independent media like podcasts and YouTubers and stuff like that, and it's fair to say that a lot of them of their content is based on what they read from those sites. Like that's something that happens. And I've even read like I know that Chris is a huge listener of Colin Moriarty and Last Time Media. I listen to him a lot as well, and like it's very funny to listen to him because he's like a very antagonistic towards the press, which I think it's completely understandable from his personal history with that.
Mm, yeah.
And but then like he does that, and then like at the next minute he's like reading a news from the one of those places, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that um, there is a space for that. I think there is a space for that type of fast, general, newsworthy content, and I like to read articles. Like the written word is something that it's not very common in YouTube, again, podcasts, etc. And I think that's valuable, and that's something that I very rarely find in independent media. I usually have to go to one of these places just like to read an article. I don't know if that's probably not that valuable to a lot of people, but I
No,
like it.
but
I mean,
I
it
think it is
is. It
super
is.
valuable, and also I believe I haven't really checked their articles, but Lord Cognito, who's like the one of the guys that runs Lords of Gaming, the site that we told you
Hmm.
about, he he talks about having writers say stuff and stuff like that, and I also see them retweet some of their own articles. So I do think they have like a part where they have writers do stuff there. So
Oh, that's cool.
that's where to check out, because they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
like independent as well, and that's pretty cool. By the way, just a quick parenthesis, when you were talking about these people not having knowledge of the game and stuff like that, I remembered, and I was searching for it, and I found it. There's an article by Jezebel. I don't really know that site, but it says, "Who forgot to invite Chun-Li to the Mortal Kombat?" Did you guys see this?
Yeah, that one was pretty sad.
No, I'm like, oh my
They-
god.
That one's pretty sad.
It's talking about the Mortal Kombat movie that recently came out. So I believe that when the trailer came out, this person was like, "Where's Chun-Li?" And it's like, oh my god.
Oh,
They never really discovered what that was, because after, obviously, like the writer then said, "Oh, it was a joke,"
Uh-huh.
and people were not that sure because it was pretty. There was no tongue in cheek humor there,
No.
like, and the whole, and it's like just fucked up. Like, but it shows that there's probably, like, that's a good thing as well, in the sense that there's not that much review process, so people can be very. There's not like that much bureaucracy, or I don't know. Like, it's my thing here is, like, I really want the this industry to either shape into something new, or be good again. And I think that there is a path, but it's not something that is gonna acquiesce with the current status quo. So it's gonna be shifting, it's gonna be changing. And in the same way that there used to be, like, printed magazines, like Club Nintendo and stuff like that, and PC Gamer, and they couldn't really transition into the digital world. I think we are gonna see that these publishers cannot transition into a multi-platform, decentralized world. Like, that's where they're gonna fall short. And the core fundamental is, like, they're building on top of business models that no longer make sense. That's why I think it's the biggest problem. If we start playing like a multiplayer game, like, suppose, like, the three of us start playing Warzone, and one of us is really good at writing, and the another one is really good at math, and the other one's really good at development, and we say, okay, let's kickstart what's it called, like an esports portal where we follow kind of in real time the tournaments and whatnot. That already there, if you say it aloud, it has some value, and someone might pick it up, and just that description is far more interesting than what if the three of us just, talk, like, write shit. Not like talking shit even has value nowadays, because
no, I,
people
I,
do
agree.
it.
I agree.
But but just, like, let's write op-eds and see how that makes us rich. It's not gonna cut it anymore. So that's a transformation. I think it really needs to happen, and they have to drop the political act. It reaffirms their beliefs. It sets them up in a very specific cultural place, but like, most people don't give a shit.
Yeah,
Like, most
I
people, they
totally
just
agree.
like, new Assassin's Creed. It's like that normal queue where you have kind of like a dumb guy,
Uh-huh.
like in this guy, and then the other guy with the hood, and then there's the guy in the middle. So, like, here's, like, most people are like, yeah, new Assassin's Creed games, and then in the other side, like, the most edgy people is like, yeah, I'm gonna check out this Assassin's Creed games and play it. And
I
then you have people in the middle. They're like,
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
god,
agree.
no.
I agree. And that's why I love sites like Video Games Chronicle, which is like just pure distilled, like, newsworthy stuff and simple stuff. However, I was going to say that there's nothing inherently wrong with politically based video game coverage. Like,
Yep.
does have a place that can exist. It's just that for some reason, like, these sites have, it's just, it's all to one side,
The
like,
same,
there
yes.
there's there it's and it's what I was saying at the beginning. Like, I don't even have a problem if you're leaning right or center or left. I'm not talking about that even. It's like, just like, it's so predictable. It's just the same ideas one again and again and again, and like the not being open uh to engaging in different ideas and discussions, and like the way they demonize s- stuff so, like, inoffensive and simple, and people like Colin, who's like just a good dude, like, he's a normal dude, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
A normal
Yeah, you
dude
can't
who
like
just
normal is not good enough.
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
And they treat the games the same way. I
Yeah.
believe that you can have like a political analysis of anything, a philosophical analysis of anything. Most of my favorite games are like the Metal Gear series, which is just it's just military. What's it
Philosophy,
called?
yeah.
Military. The title is like I'm gonna check it out because it's like military tactical espionage games. That
when
it's kind of like
when
it's in the
I
name, like it's just
when
Oh,
I
it's tactical
tactical
espionage action.
espionage action.
yeah
Yeah.
Exactly.
one day when I'm currently at the torture scene from the first one. When I'm able
You been
to
able to
get
move through?
when no, I'm not yet. So when I'm able to go through that, we can talk about Metal Gear. As I
Yeah.
get.
But even that game it asks very complex questions like what if war is a business, like everything it's in the like there are no winners or losers, PTSD, like you name it has everything. And it's not something, and because it's so well executed and like people analyze it in a serious way, but no one's like, ugh, I don't like that game because like you fight in Afghanistan in Metal Gear 5. Like no one like people like we had when that game launched, no one was like, oh my god, this game. Like there were no articles saying if
Yeah.
you launch that game today, here I'm gonna tell you like what would happen. People would be like, Metal Gear Phantom Pain is a revisionist piece of history that doesn't make justice to
It's a
the
no,
brave
it's
Mujahideen
a white
soldiers.
savior power fantasy.
Exactly, it would be something like that. And it's like, dude, it's just you're in Afghanistan because there was a war in Afghanistan in that decade. If not, you would be somewhere else. You would be in Vietnam, or you would be,
Yeah.
it's just. And I think that's such a low bar,
Yeah.
because the bar is not like, oh, we're really going deep into the ludo dissonance of this game, or whatever, or like we're analyzing. No, it's just like there's this huge thing happening, and then this mildly relates to the game. So let's mix everything together. It's never analyzing the game, because I think there are plenty of games. Like every single game that has been released, you could have like a political analysis about it. Like Ghost of Tsushima, even
No.
Death Stranding, you could be like, it has to do with a fucking pandemic and philosophically what it means. And it's like those op-eds are never really about the game. That's the problem. Like it's not that they're talking about politics. It's like it's not the politics of the game. You're talking about like the politics in the United States, where I don't even live in.
Yeah.
And then in between, there's kind of like the game used as a vessel for your opinion. So
Yeah.
And to be
Actually,
fair,
ultimately,
like,
it's their opinions.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's their opinions. It's not
yeah,
like the opinions of the game either.
No.
yeah. No, I was just going to say that, to be fair, I think like I'm defending these sites, but that's not what I'm doing. But I was just going to say that I do think that when these sites started covering this kind of stuff, like, is this game like misogynistic or whatever? I mean, when those questions were first being asked, I think that was interesting to read. I mean, it was, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things I hadn't noticed before, and I think it was very valuable.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened then. Like they just went on they doubled down to absurd degrees and just, yeah, it was like, yeah, and then I don't
Totally.
know if it has to do maybe with uh because most of the media we read is US based, so then you had
California
Trump,
based. So
and
that's
well,
also yeah.
that's true. Well, I think Kotaku and Polygon are in New York, but
Yeah, I think Kotaku has like on both sides, but they definitely have something in New York. Yeah, you're totally right.
yeah, yeah, but no, like, like the 2016 elections, then the
Mm-hmm.
2020 ones, like the US has been like very politically charged lately, so
Totally.
I'm pretty sure that has something to do with that.
Yeah, I actually love the
I
fact that you brought these points. Oh, sorry, you were gonna say
No, I
something.
have a real time bad take of GameSpot.
Okay.
They just released their review of Dune, the Denis Villeneuve movie.
Oh
They gave it
yes,
a 10,
yes,
and they put the good, fantastic ensemble, spends time getting to know each character, awe-inspiring scale, practical sets and effects that look great, gorgeous music, effectively adapts the novel on the screen. The bad, like the original story, relies on familiar white savior tropes.
Oh my
It's like,
god.
dude, you missed it. Fuck you. Like
yeah,
that's the point.
yeah,
That's the point. That's the whole fucking point. Read the like. I don't want to be like read the books, but that's what the movie is about. It's what the movie is about. Fuck off.
Yeah, no, it's disappointing. But yeah, no. Back to what Fabio was saying. I think that he poses a great point, which is that we don't really disagree with 100% of what these people are saying.
Yeah.
And when they started writing about this, like for example, when I don't remember where I first saw this question, but I had never realized the fact that all the games I play are protagonists are always male and they're always white. And you know, for me, who is like a white passing Latino, more or less, I think we're all fall in that category. Whatever you, well, yeah, we not necessary to go into that. But we're all some like that, right? I had never considered that, and I don't think it's positive. I think it's like, why are we always doing the same thing? However, I don't believe that it is like a conspiracy thing where they're all saying there can't be a woman in here because I can't. No, it's not like that. I think it's just one thing where a group of writers sit down and they're mostly white dudes and you're just like, okay, so who's gonna be the main character? Okay, he's gonna be Sam, and what's he like? Yeah, he's probably gonna be. And this is why I think it's very important for there to be diversity in these kinds of rooms. Not because there has to be a percentage and we have to fill a quota. I think that is where it falls into the negative part. But the thing is that if you bring a woman into your writer's room, if you bring a black guy, if you bring an Asian person, you're gonna see things from perspectives that you're not gonna see ever in your life because you're not a black guy, you're not a woman, and you're not an Asian guy. And that's gonna enrich your product wherever it is. It can be a podcast, it can be a game, it can be well, not a book because it's not written like that, but you know what I mean.
It could be.
It could be like listening
exactly.
to someone else. Like
exactly. So that
just listening is important.
Exactly. And if you want, you can take a look at it from a very selfish way. Like, you want your product to be amazing, get more perspectives. Don't even look at it from the inclusionist perspective. Or if you want to do that, but like, it's always gonna result in a better product unless your product is for some reason a white only thing, which I don't really understand in this world why you would do that, because that's not really realistic. But whatever, that's not really what we're going into. So I would love to give the audience a little bit of examples of what we mean when we say these politically charged things. We don't really have to go into in depth if that's not what we want to do. But I did compile all these examples here. So we already covered the Mass Effect, defund the police kind of thing, where this writer kind of says that the way Shepard behaves is like he's the authority and he's not really accountable for anything and all that.
Because he's a Spectre.
Because he's a Spectre, exactly.
Yeah, and you play the fucking game, that's the point.
Exactly. So the thing about this one is that, like, I agree that such an authority under normal circumstances in the real world is not a positive thing. That's why we have dictators and stuff like that. But at the same time, we have interdimensional squids that want to eat planets. So it's kind of like a, you know, like we're in a state of emergency here. So that's, and they recognize that in the article, and they say that it's like a lack of imagination, like you're using this as a crutch to make Shepard be all this. And it's like, no, man, it's the fucking story. It's like, I don't.
No, it's not even that. Like, the game constantly has like that discussion with itself, like how positive or how acceptable the specters should be. Like the game even engages in that, you know, and like he doesn't even acknowledge that, which is
it's ridiculous because at the same time, it's not like it's an external factor like, oh, you know, like you're using this as a boogeyman. It's like it's the end of the fucking world. No, it's the end of the fucking universe.
Yeah.
If these guys win, like it's literally we're back to square one on organic life forms. They're resetting civilization. It is an emergency. If someone has to do that, it's okay because otherwise existence will stop. Like it's just like, what's the point? Like, I understand when people say like immigrants are bad and they're gonna take your jobs. It's like, well, that's not true. But here, it is true. Like that's the point. He's given more. Like at the beginning, people are like, you can't do that because because we don't believe what you're saying. Like we don't believe we don't believe that there are some collectors around. Like we don't believe the Geth are a threat. Like he's constantly finding evidence supporting the fact that things need to be done, and then he takes decisions like we either save this or we let the council die, or like I'm probably going to spoil the territory, but it's like a 10-year-old game.
Yeah,
But the point
please.
is, you're constantly against the odds, and at some point like it's justifiable. Like having something being justified, it exists. It's something that you could go into the game and have a conversation about the game. But the fact that you're doing that analogy with the real world, where man, real things are happening. It's like, because ultimately he's talking about police brutality in the real world,
Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with Mass Effect.
nothing.
So it's idiotic.
Yeah.
It's
Like if you want to talk about police brutality, it's a really tough subject and something that African American people in the U.S. have to struggle with every day, and it's sad and it's horrible. But it's not. It has nothing to do with Mass Effect. It has nothing. Even it has nothing to do with Shepard. Like
No.
it's just insane. Like it
And
just,
also,
if anything, it's like the one time where you could say, let's have someone do whatever it takes, because otherwise there's no future.
yeah, and also the one thing that also invalidates this for me is the fact that you have a morality system in the game. If you want to be an asshole, you can be an asshole. So does that mean that you're condoning the assholism? No, it's like it's part of the game that you have the possibility to be an asshole. Correct?
Your eyes literally glow red when you're an asshole.
Exactly. It's
Like
like
it's like they're telling you, exactly. It's a different logo. It's like it's we know that these are tropes. We know that this is how the story is flowing. It's just bad take all around.
total
In
bad
my
take.
in my opinion,
Oh, hey,
and you read it, and it's not as incendiary as the title,
no.
but it's like it's the same thing. It's like we defund the police, and then it's like, what if we defund the Normandy? It's like
Do you have any
that's the
idea how
level.
boring that game
That's the
would be?
level of
Like,
exactly
Yeah,
filling
like
paperwork.
for me, that I mean, that's one. This is one of those examples that I just can't fathom that this person thinks that. I mean, I just really think they wrote that to be, controversial and to.
And it's a huge article, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I'm sure it is. Like,
It's not like a short take.
yeah,
But I do think that there are other articles. I don't know if you put in the list the one about 6 days in Fallujah.
no, and that's actually a
Uh,
pretty interesting topic. Yeah, so give it to me. Yes.
That was a pretty intense topic for people who know. There's this game that has been like shelved and then revamped, and then they're back again, which is kind of like a tactical roguelike. I think that the whole idea is like procedural shooter roguelike, where basically it's kind of like a realistic shooter, and it's based on Kaluuya, which was an operation that
Fallujah,
happened in
Fallujah.
a town. Fallujah, yeah, I was like Kaluuya, Fallujah. I think that this was an operation that pretty much comes. It's kind of like considered like like it's. I'm not sure like if they've allegedly the war crimes were committed during their operations, and it's not the brightest moment on U.S. Military history. But the game is about like 6 days there. Considering it's a game, obviously some things, you have enemies, you kill them, and these people are, well, just to put it like in the same way people are putting it, like brown. They are rebels, and you save civilians, and you could end up by mistake shooting civilians. And when you take this with what happened there in the real life, it sounds like it's atrocious. Like it sounds like you're putting like a moral system on top of it. If you ask me, I think that it's just one part of the story. It's a military shooter. It's meant for adults. If someone takes a look at this and then they go investigate more about what happened there, they probably have their own opinions. But for now, it's a game. It's a military conflict that happened. And what most people fail to see there is like every time there is a Call of Duty game, every time there's a Battlefield game, they exist on the shoulders of battles, conflicts, wars that were fought on horrible grounds where people lost their lives, and we don't give shit to them because we know that this is just kind of like a power fantasy. They're
Mm.
just games, and the fact that we're gonna treat this game differently because we are politically motivated to do so, I think it's just weird.
The
Why can't we
the
why can't we do
excuse?
games about World War II and not about like 6 days in Fallujah?
Yeah, the excuse that they give that I don't really see how that's a viable excuse is that it's too recent. It's like, so
Too soon.
Yeah.
Hashtag too soon.
Exactly. And it's like, well, I mean,
It might be.
they
It
have
might be
other
for some
excuses,
people.
but that's the main one that I see.
But some Call of Duty games are in the future, so that's even sooner. You know.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
even more controversial.
I I'm not familiar with like the whole history of this. I do know that I think the creator of the game, like he, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like he interviewed with a lot of veterans, and like he has a very close relation with what happened.
Yeah,
And
actually,
I
Yes.
the way they're framing this game is like a documentary. So the characters you play as are actual soldiers, like they've been mocapped
I
and
mean
everything. So yeah,
that I think I mean I don't know if the end result will be good, but I think that's amazing. Like
awesome. Yes.
that sounds so interesting. Like why haven't games explored this? Like real life events, documentaries, stuff like this. And why do you have to? Why do you want to shut this down? Like I can't understand that.
And this is a game for adults,
Yeah.
and also the fact that it's procedural has a
And that
point, which is
it isn't even out. Like that's the thing. Like it isn't
no,
even out.
no, and it has struggled with development, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not being published by a major label or anything like that. It has also the fact that it's procedural. It's not like, oh, we want to kill random brown people. It's that way because that's supposedly that's what the soldiers were feeling. They were dropped in an area that they had no knowledge, like how it was really laid out. They were trusting like radio communication. They were going through houses of people, which it's fucking terrifying. Like yes, it's a horrible experience. It's war. Like if the debate of this game is like, is war bad, it's like, this is a game for adults. So yes, we know that it's bad. We know it's horrible. And the experience of going to a room, finding like random people that you have to discern from soldiers or civilians immediately. It's just if you manage to recreate that and explore that, then I think it's cool. I think it's exciting. I think that even people will go further and be like, wow. I don't think anyone's. This is not military propaganda. I don't think that anyone has ever played Call of Duty and be like, oh, I want to be 8 months in Afghanistan.
Yeah, no.
Like it just works like that. There's no the fact that people think that this game's on military propaganda, it speaks that they don't understand propaganda, because even some games have been done as military propaganda and effectively they have failed. It's like when the army had a Twitch channel.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing about this game that was controversial, I believe one of you mentioned something about it, is the fact that allegedly the US military used white phosphorus, which is something that's not allowed
A war
in
crime,
crime.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a war crime, exactly. Because it's like, from what I understand, because there is an interview that Colin Moriarty did in his Patreon where he speaks to this guy who's like a military journalist, and they speak about this game specifically. So yeah, white phosphorus is, I believe it's not intended to be used as a weapon. It's intended to be used as more of like a smoke screen kind of thing, where it creates the smoke and you kind of go under it or whatever. But it has this effect on the human skin where it kind of like smelts your skin. It's horrible. That's why it's considered a war crime. And in this case specifically, I believe it's called the second war in Fallujah, or not war. It was like the second battle of Fallujah. That's what it's called. That's what the game covers. And there are like people who say apparently that there was used, but there's no military like record of it. That's what this military journalist said. Like, you can actually, I don't know how, but you can actually kind of verify that information, and there is no record official. That doesn't mean it didn't happen, because we know these things how they are. But then the other aspect that they were considering is that, imagine that you're one of those soldiers. Imagine that you have, I don't know, you're pinned down, you don't know how many people you have around you shooting at you. Like, it could be 20, it could be 50, it could be 2. And you're about to die, and you have this white phosphorus grenade here that you're not intended to use as a weapon. But so are you gonna judge the person who uses it? Like, I don't mean as a court, I mean as a human being. Like, are you gonna judge the person for resorting to it for survival? Wouldn't you have done maybe the same? It's a complex issue.
I find it surreal, the fact that war has rules.
It is
That's
surreal.
all I'm gonna say.
It is surreal. It is
Yeah,
surreal.
it is quite weird.
I was thinking
It is
the
quite
same.
weird. Like Like even if you're like, yeah, you have this grenade, it's bad, it's a crime, you're about to die. It's like, well, yeah, I would use it. Like I wouldn't be like, whoops, forbidden. I'm sorry, I'll kill my way out. You know, it just I think that it has to do like I obviously like, don't have that much information about like the situation there, but all these wars they're horrible.
Yeah.
Like it's not only horrible for the battle itself, but like the consequences and the attrition to the country and like the people. And I think that yeah, like this is war. Like it's a horrible thing. And I understand the same way that if someone's like, I don't like playing I don't like playing Wolfenstein because my dad was German, and you know he served with the Nazis, and he did what he had to. He was a soldier. Like I understand that as well. Like it's just not every game is for everyone. I'm sure that some people they're like watching The Last of Us and they're like, I don't want to. I lost my daughter and I can't go through the epilogue. Or some people, I don't know, they see Dark Souls and they're like, oof, I was in jail for a long time and I don't like seeing when they drop the key because I would have loved that to happen to me. Some random shit like that, you know.
Yeah. Oh my
Or some
god.
people playing for, I don't know, like I can go on for
Yeah,
stupid
yeah.
examples where like it's not, there's nothing wrong, like the game is there, just don't fucking play it. There's kind of like this dissonance of like in the US where you have hundreds of thousands of veterans that are treated like shit and then kicked in the ass, and then well, this could be a tribute, you know. It's like this is the real deal, like the
Wait,
same way that you have Call of Duty doing ridiculous shit. Maybe there's a game where you're like, whoa, this is tough.
And also, one little thing is that it could end up being military propaganda. It could end up being totally missing the point. It could end up being shooty and like not be taking it serious at all. It could end up being a masterpiece and a thing that brings the medium forward by telling a story that's real, documentary style. We don't know that
don't
yet.
know.
We don't
You
know.
haven't played it.
And these fucking journalists are trying to cancel it even before it comes out. And they've gathered like signatures and petitioned on whatever. It's like, come on, man, just shut up and leave it be until it comes out, and then you shit on it.
Is it cancelled or
No,
or
no, no,
is
no.
it
It's not cancelled.
It's coming out.
No,
It's coming out. I
the
think,
plan is coming out, but it's been in development hell for a while. So
yeah, because I think it was stated to release in 2012, and then it was dropped, and then it was retaken again like a couple of years ago, something like that. Yeah.
it's the story's pretty crazy.
Okay, okay.
It's been on the making for like 7 years. Like someone wanted to do this game for a long time. Uh, I hope it's good.
Yeah.
Like I just like with any game, I just hope it's good. I
Yeah.
hope that things are. If this is a topic, I hope things are addressed. And if this was a war crime, and and they're gonna show it, and people will, and more people will know about it, then they better to find out through a video game than through the news. You know, like they can make up their own mind.
Yep.
And you know, like and for we as gamers, we see this as normal, but also there's a huge part of the world that rejects violence in games. And I think it was Kojima actually that was tweeting about it, saying like how many times he wanted to have like something from literature or from author in one of his games, and then he couldn't because immediately he talked to the people that ran the state that he wanted to use that. They were like, nope. So I think that there is that as well. Like it's a world within a world, and this circles back to the beginning, which is like, do these people even like games? You know, it's
Yeah.
weird because I think then you build a brand around it
Yeah.
as the savior of games, and I think that I think it was, I don't remember, it's like Rami, what's his last
Rami
name?
Ismail. Yeah.
Rami Ismail.
Rami Ismail. He was one of the most vocal things about it because he's from his family is from the Middle East. And I'm not sure if he's from the Middle
No,
East.
he,
as well. I'm not
he's
sure if
he's
American.
Egyptian. He's half Egyptian and
He's
half
Egyptian.
Dutch. Yep.
Half Egyptian and half Dutch. Okay, so he was very vocal about this thing, and it's part of his identity to be like a progressive advocate in games, in the same way that Jason Schreier, his identity is to be like kind of like a, I don't know how can I put it, kind of like a progressive pro union and workers' rights in the game industry. They build their audience around it. They block people who disagree with them. Both of them have been blocked. Jason, I don't know why. He probably has one of those nuke buttons for people to interact with replies or something like that. And Remy, I think it was during Palestine or something like that. I wasn't saying anything incendiary to him. I just disagreed with him on something. He immediately blocked me.
Hmm.
So I was like,
That's
whatever.
how they do the
Um,
things. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a huge echo chamber, but that's their brand.
Yep.
For me, it's a boring brand.
Hmm.
But the other brand, which is like people are gonna follow me because I'm funny and I like games and they like my takes and they think I'm smart, it's really fucking hard. It's only a handful of people who can pull that off.
Yeah, and also it's pretty unfortunate because actually when the whole Six Days in Fallujah thing was burning, he actually said like no outlet has invited me to do a podcast or talk about this or whatever. And Colin Moriarty was like, hey, do you want to come on my show? It's like the biggest PlayStation show in the world. And he was like, some fucking asshole gamer gator Colin Moriarty contacted me, but I'm not gonna blah, blah. And it's like, dude, I just reached out to you because you wanted to speak about this, and I want to speak about it with you.
He does that all the time. It's so funny when he does that.
Yeah, he's one of those figures that Rami. I mean, like I was a huge fan of his games. Well, I think he actually I'm not sure if he's actually like a programmer. I do think like he was the half of the studio that made, because there were two people that made Ridiculous Fishing, which I think is a fabulous, fantastic game. And I don't know, I admire him a lot, and I don't know what, like he just, what we were saying before, like he went his
Yes.
way, and it's just he's very annoying to read, like really, like he I don't know, like uh, this week I think someone posted a video about a guy yelling at an airport. He just like quoted it and was like, if this was me on the airport, I would have like 20 policemen like on top of me. And it's like,
Which is not true. Like it's just that's not
no,
how
and
security works
that's not even
anymore.
the point. It's just like he's just, any chance he can get to like make up, like it was a stupid video about some guy yelling like
I saw
I
it.
saw
I
it.
saw it.
Yes.
It's like the center. He's like trying to frame everything as the center of attention.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, we're seeing this guy who's having a mental breakdown in the middle of an airport.
He's white.
Which kind of makes sense because, which exactly, he's like, he's white. If it were me, I would be dead. It's like, dude, can we focus on the fact that this guy probably
Yeah,
has been
it
locked
doesn't-
down for the past year? Probably his mind is just so fucked up. There's no mental health care like in the US. And he's like, if it was me, I would be dead. It's like, well, it's not you, thankfully, like
It's
for
not you,
exterior
yes.
reason. He did come to prominence during the Trump travel ban that he did in
Yeah.
2016. That I think that at that point I was agreeing with him. Like the fact that he made a travel ban so wide with so many countries was like, okay, this is something that people should know about. And he reframed it from the fact that he was an entrepreneur, that he was being banned because he was half Egyptian. And it was pretty crazy. And I think that then he was like, okay, this guy has a point. And also that game Ridiculous Fishing is insane.
it's
really,
very
really
very good,
But
fantastic.
yeah, so I think that, and also like he's kind of like an open source advocate and open collaboration advocate. But then, man, after that, it's annoying to read.
Yeah,
Because,
it's
you
annoying to
cannot-
read.
Yeah, because
you
it's
cannot see the
monothematical,
world
right?
through
It's
that
like
lens.
It's
always the same,
monothematic
always
and
the same
always
things.
about himself. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And building a brand around that is just exhausting. And yeah, I like it whenever some of this happen and they're like, no one has invited me, and then calling is like, you want to come to my town? Or like whenever he sees someone has a horrible take, before putting his own opinion, he's like, hey, would you want to come to my podcast and we talk about it for like 2 or 3 hours? I promise not to cut anything. And then they're like,
Fuck
thanks,
you.
no.
Yeah,
Or like,
exactly.
why would I exactly? Fuck you, I won't.
Yeah.
And then he goes, okay, I'm just gonna quote you, give you my opinion, and like already did my thing. And then he actually, like, he recently had on his podcast this guy from IGN that
Philip
plagiarized,
Musin. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Man.
yeah, which was also like one of those really low moments in journalism.
Yes.
And he interviewed him, and he was very critical about it because like plagiarizing something, it's bad.
It's bad.
And then when you do it with a job that many people would like to have, it's even worse. And that's the other thing. Like I think that some people have that optics of like, it's not the perfect job writing for video games, but it's better than most of the blue collar stuff that you have out there. It's better than driving a garbage truck. It's better than cleaning the streets, which are jobs that we need, and they're amazing jobs that we're thankful for. But they are exhausting. They drain you they drain you physically, and a lot of people will like to be doing something else. Like there's a little bit of gratitude there that I constantly have as a developer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree. So, in just to bring this a little bit home and go into the final part of the show, I would just like to say that I read all these articles. I mostly disagreed with a lot of things that were said. I mean, the PlayStation 5 Kotaku review, where it's like, how can anyone review this? Does anybody even have $500? It's like, dude, please, shut. Like, but the main takeaway that I take from this is a positive one, which is that these people, with agendas or without agendas, with bad takes or not, hating games or not, they are demanding more from games, and that is always something that is going to have a positive outcome, I believe,
I
because
agree.
because we I don't know if you've seen this in Metacritic. I hate Metacritic, but they have this thing where there's like a range where it's red, the number, there's a range where it's yellow, and there's a range where it's green. For movies, the range for it to be green is like from 70 to 100, and for games it's lower. So that already gives you kind of an indication, just in this shitty website, that we demand more from movies than we do from games, and that's not really fair. We should demand from games that they are better each time. We should demand from them that the stories are better and that everything grows. And I know that game development is hard, blah blah blah. I totally get it. I mean, I've been playing for decades, but I do think that it's positive for us. I don't agree with the how, but I do agree with the what, the final like little flower that I was able to find in all this mountain of shit that I had to read through. So yes, what do you guys think about that? The final thought.
I completely agree. I think I would just go back a bit to what I mentioned before, that when these questions were being asked at first, I think it was very interesting, and it gave way to place, not media wise, but game wise, where we are right now, which I think is the best we've ever been. Personally, that's my
Mm-hmm.
take. I think
Yes.
games are more diverse and interesting than ever,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of that happened thanks to those discussions that happened um, many years ago. It's just that right now, unfortunately, a lot of these people have taken those discussions to the absurd.
Yep.
But I agree.
I think that whenever we demand from games, it's kind of like a market demand, and the technologies are getting better. More people are making games. More the game industry is also shifting into like different models, different ways of telling stories, and it's the best time in the world to be a gamer. Like five out of
Yes.
my favorite 10 games in my life came out in the past like 5 years, and I think that it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more exciting and more diverse. And part of that is thanks to the consumer, but I think the part of that will be also thanks to the press that is able to critique a game in a way that it builds on its mistakes. So I think that from my side, I want this outlets to finally shift into whatever they're gonna shift, or I want the industry to like move forward, which is something that it's already happening, communicationally, economically, and in every direction. So yeah, I think that if anything, it's in a good state. Like these portals are in a bad state, but everything else it's far more plural, far more democratic. So it's if we just have to be able to ignore the noise and focus on the good things, because there's plenty of people doing like the best work that it's ever been done in the history of gaming.
Agree.
Agreed. Okay, so now we move into the final part of the show, the part where we talk about what we've been playing since the last episode or whatever. So let's start with our guest. Let's start with you, Fabio. What are you playing right now?
Oh, to be honest, I'm not playing that much because of this little
Oh,
thing.
okay.
I haven't been able to play that
Damn.
much. Yeah, but I've been doing two things. Like, I'm gonna talk about the last week. I downloaded GTA 5, and I've been just I've just been I've been driving
Okay.
around, and that's what I've been doing.
Cruising.
Like, and I use like this. If I need to move the camera, I use this finger because I can
Okay.
use my thumb. And like, man, that game has scaled very very well into the future. Like, it's Rockstar is just an impressive studio. Like, it's like constant flexing. It's just constant flexing in every way.
Yes.
um and then I've been playing the latest, not the one, not the ones that just released like I think it was like last week or a few weeks ago, but the latest one in the main series from Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney,
Okay.
the visual novels. They're very very fun. I don't know if you guys enjoy visual novels. I think I know they are like
Yeah, they're
very.
cool.
I have never played one.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay. I don't know if I would recommend this because it's like 6 games and each game is very long and it's like a lot of time.
Okay.
But they are very fun. They are very absurd and very anime. And I love anime, so it's okay with me. The localization is very good as well. And I don't know, like I'm just I think I think they are very fun games, very very entertaining with like absurd twists and things that happen that you just can't. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm surprised that 6 games in there are still twists that happen that get me surprised, and
Okay.
it's
They're still
very.
surprising you. That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Is that on Switch? It's like a collection, right?
I mean, so there are three. The three first games are like I think they are everywhere. Like you can buy them. They were originally Game Boy Advance games, so
Okay.
they are very old. But you can, I think you can buy them anywhere. Then there is the fourth game, which I don't think it's available anywhere. And then there are the fifth and sixth games, which are only on 3DS.
Okay.
But then, and this is the last part of my rant, um, they just released a spin-off from the main games, which are 2 games in one, which are in Switch, PC, and PlayStation 4, I think. And if somebody wants to try like the series, I would start with that, like with the spin-off that just released, which I haven't played, but they look very good and they had very good reviews. So yeah.
Awesome. I always think it's funny. I've never played a Phoenix Wright game, but the cover always features someone pointing. And
Yeah.
it's
No,
like,
and it's
why?
like it's very funny because they are very self-aware about that and they play on
Okay.
that, and it's very cool.
I'm seeing that the original trilogy is on PS4 one
Yeah.
two three,
Hmm.
and then there's the Chronicles one.
Chronicles
Great as
is
Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Chronicles is a spin-off. It's actually two
Okay,
games in one that released for the 3DS in Japan like a few years ago, and then they localized it.
it's all text based, right? Like they don't speak.
No, they have like
Okay,
when you yell like objection, like.
it's like
Okay.
And it was very funny because in the DS, which is where I played the original Trinity, you had this gimmick where you could yell objection, and like it picked it
wow,
up. Nintendo stuff.
wow,
Yeah.
cool.
How about you, Christian? What have you been playing?
I'm playing Mass Effect still. I'm on the Mass Effect 2. I've been taking it kind of like a TV show. Like I'm playing a little bit every day. I think I'm gonna do the what's the name, like the expansions now, the DLCs. They have three. They have Firewalker, Operatic Overlord, and Lair of the Shadow Broker. Um, so that's what I'm doing, and then I'm probably gonna go for the final mission. Can't stress enough how good this game is. I had forgotten that this was my favorite game ever, and I remembered why. Like this game is really really good. Like from the past years, as I would say, like most of my favorite games, like I played in the last 5 years, but this game is just it's just incredible. Like it's just another level of sci-fi and character development and whatnot. It's really cool. I finished Judgment. Finally, the case is solved. I do have to say that I wasn't a completionist on that one. I only did like they show you the stats at the end. I only did like 22% of everything that I could do because it has a lot of side quests and mini games and whatnot.
It does.
But I managed to finish the game. I have to say that the voice acting in English is really good. Like Matthew Mercer does an amazing job as the main antagonist,
It's very good.
and overall it's a glorious game. It's I would say it's like a hidden gem.
Okay.
More people should play Judgment.
Yes,
Like
please.
it kicks ass. It kicks ass. It's just soft back, Uh, Yagami-san is just one of the coolest characters that I've ever seen. It's very cinematic, and the attention to detail it's just great. It plays great. The things that happen, you can just chill in Kamurocho and have fun. And so I finished that, and I started with the again with the remake of, well, not the remake, the director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima,
Did you begin the
60
game again from
FPS.
the beginning?
Yeah, from the
Oh,
very beginning.
okay.
Like I didn't do a new game plus. I'm like from scratch,
Okay.
and the upgrade is real. It's the haptics is amazing. Whenever you pull out the sword, it feels as if, I don't know how to explain, but it feels like as if a sword is being pulled out of the controller. That technology is really next level.
Yes.
The frame rate is amazing. The 4K resolutions are there. The haptic for when you pull in the bow, it's also really good. The game plays better than ever, and I think that it's a great game. I started in Japanese, but then I switched it back to English. To be honest, I think that the English dub is superior. Like obviously I don't speak Japanese, but I even though the lip sync, I played enough to know that the lip sync works very well.
Okay.
But I think that dramatically the game, this is kind of weird, but I think that compared to, this is the thing, compared to the Yakuza games like Judgment, I see that the game kind of like the body language and everything is built around English,
Yeah,
Okay.
and I see that very clear. And I also play the Yakuza, the Judgment game with the English dub. I discussed this with Juan the other day. I think that I wasn't like in the mindset, like whenever it's English, it's Japanese and it's a game, like I don't pay that much attention, so I rather just play it in English. And I think that there you could see kind of like the, not the uncanniness, but like
The
that
weirdness.
crunchy,
Yeah.
the weirdness of the dubbing, which I love, by the way. I like that. I like when an anime is really well dubbed. I think that that's great. I think that, but you see kind of like like, what are you doing? Like it's just like the cultural difference.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that it's interesting how that does not happen on Ghost of Tsushima. Like I think that maybe there's something with the Japanese language that it requires, like, in order for the like it needs more body language in order to like communicate the same level of drama. I don't know, it's
yeah.
kind
I
of it's kind
think
of weird, but
I think we're also more used to seeing Japanese stuff dubbed to English than English stuff dubbed to Japanese, which is what you were seeing with Ghost
yeah,
of Tsushima. I don't know if I'm
yeah.
explaining myself.
No, yeah, because
I think I think
the
it's weird because
original
with, yeah, go for
written.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, but yeah, the original script was probably, because it's Sucker Punch, is probably in English, so
See, yeah.
It
it
is
brings
American.
like this
It's
whole
American.
sort of, yeah. I totally agree.
But it's weird because I was saying this also in the other episode, like with Sekiro, they put it in Japanese by default, but then the English language is just insane, and the Spanish language is insane. So like all the dubbings are insane.
Yeah.
They're great. And I think here in the end, I'll just like switch it back, so I'm having kind of like the same experience, but next gen, and it's a great game. Like it's just good. Like it's just as I remember it. So I'm gonna be playing a lot of that, and probably I don't know exactly which day Death Stranding is dropping, but I am going to give it a third chance
Oh
with
my
the
god.
director's cut, and I will let you know if I finally surrender to being a delivery guy in Iceland as a game mechanic.
Well, you already know my stance on that. I think it's worth it to play once. I saw the trailer of the director's cut and I thought it was awesome, but I said, do I want to play this again? And the answer is no. So I'm not gonna be doing that.
Yeah, I already tried it. Like the first time I played like 4 hours and it was like I jumped into another game. The second time was during the pandemic and it was like, yes,
The
this is
moment.
gonna be it.
Yeah.
Like this is the moment. Like we're all locked down. This guy's delivering package, keeping everything connected. Let's go. And after 8 hours, it was almost like giving me anxiety. I don't know why,
Mhm.
but the whole idea of having like this backlog of packages to deliver with little to no progress, it was just like eating me alive. Literally, like one day I had nightmares with Death Stranding, and I was
Damn.
like, I gotta stop. And then I played Dark Souls 3, and it was like, oh, this is relaxing.
And that didn't give you
compared
nightmares? Come on.
exactly. That's how fucking bad I was thinking of the other game.
Oh
So
my
yeah,
God.
those are again like the three games I'm playing right now. I still need to organize my backlog better because I had it cleaned up during the pandemic, but now I see that it's once again, you know, building up because we have Lost Judgment coming up. So
Yes, we do. Okay, I do have a lot of games here, but some of them are fake, and some of them are I won't speak so much about. So I recently had surgery, which is why I've played so many games, and also I'm addicted to video games. So that's also I played Hades. Hades. I don't really have anything to add to this. It's amazing. The music,
It is.
the story. It recently came to Game Pass, so it had a crunchy 4K 60 that I love because I bought that on Switch, and I said yes, but not on Switch. So yes, please play it. It's amazing. Everything that they're saying is true. I do think that I'm not a fan of roguelites. Having played Returnal, having played Hades, I loved Hades. I like Returnal, but I have my... You know how you like a game when you play it, but then months pass, and you're like, did I really like it? That's kind of what happened to me with Returnal. I still like it, but I think it's a bad roguelike. I think it's that part of the game is not good. So I played 12 minutes. I did not like this game. I thought it was bad.
You played it for more than 12 minutes?
I played it for more than 12 minutes. I only got one ending. The controllers... the controls for actual controller are horrible. They should have adapted that differently. It's like a click and point thing. And it should have been like properly adapted. Here you have to like actually click the thing and drag it. And there are times where it's kind of time sensitive. Horrible decision. And the story makes... I'm not going to spoil it now, but it makes a very controversial twist that is not at all deserved. Like comes out of nowhere, makes no sense, and it doesn't really land at all. That's just my opinion. I totally hated it. Totally hated it. And then I played Yakuza 4. Awesome. Yakuza 5. Very long, but I enjoyed it, but it's very long. Then I played Psychonauts 2. This is the game I actually wanted to speak more about because if you are not a Psychonauts guy, and with that I mean if you didn't play the first one, that doesn't really matter at all. They kind of summarize what happened in the previous game. It doesn't matter. This is a game that is very much worth it. Very, very much.
Yeah.
Because it's not only inventive, it's not only colorful, and the music is great, the performances are great. It has like sort of a Tim Burton style that I think fits it perfectly. But the main thing of the game, the story is also pretty good. The main thing is that it depicts psychological concepts, whether that's an issue or whether that's something positive, whether that's something you learn, something the character learn about themselves, in a way that is so special, so inventive, so good that I can't recommend this game enough. I know that there's some chatter around, is this better than Ratchet and Clank? My initial answer to that is that doesn't really... I mean, you don't have to answer that question. You could play both and love them both.
Oh
but I would lean... If I had to like go to my head, I would go with Psychonauts 2 because
How long is it? How long did it take you to finish?
I GG'd it, which means I got all the achievements, and I got it in about 18 hours. So you could... If you blaze through the story, it's shorter than that.
Okay.
And I would go with this one in instead of Ratchet and Clank, because Ratchet and Clank is amazing. It has a lot of charm, the graphics, blah 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 blah. But this has the added effect of the script being so good and the concepts around it being so ingeniously done that doesn't apply to Ratchet. So yeah,
Double Fine is back, baby.
I mean that I to be perfectly honest with you, I did not expect that, and I'm so glad the game everyone is saying the same thing you are. So that's great.
Yes, and also
I went through a transformation period that it's just cool that they finally settled on like, let's build a great game. Because even though the experimental games that they were doing and mini games that they were doing, they were good. At some point, I thought that kind of like, how is this studio like losing direction? And I think that it's great that this game actually made it, especially after like such a long time.
Yeah. And also, I think it's positive for Double Fine and for Xbox, because there, as you probably know, there are now a first-party Xbox studio, and I think they've said that with Xbox's money, because this game was initially crowdfunded, that's why it came also PS4, blah, blah, blah. But with the Microsoft money, they were able to, I think, add more boss fights. I think that's what I read. And that's always fun, so great. And yeah, I mean, cool. I think it's pretty cool to see Xbox have a win, Double Fine have a win, us having a great game, so amazing. And then the last thing I have started playing for a couple of days, of course, is Judgment. I want to be there day one for Lost Judgment. And I mean,
Lost Judgment.
Exactly. And I don't really have much to add than you, Chris, other than my perspective, having played almost all of Yakuza. I'm still not on 6. I left that one for the end. And I mean, it has the same skeleton as a Yakuza game, but the muscles and the skin and the organs are so different that it differs itself a lot. So I'm enjoying that a lot. They also have the new engine because, as you know, like me playing 3, 4, and 5, those are remasters and those are kind of rough. Not graphically, but the menus are horrible, and it's just old game feeling old. This one feels so new. The combat and everything's so fucking good. And I differ with you. We've already discussed this in the whole Japanese thing. I mean, I always, when I can, stick to the original language of the setting. And in this case, with Ghost of Tsushima, it would be as well Japanese. But I'm kind of annoying with that, and I know that, so I'm not gonna impose my annoyingness onto you. But yeah, this is something that I'm looking forward to seeing more. I'm loving it.
And the acting is really good. I think that the English dub in Judgment makes it a little bit over the top, but the Japanese one, it feels as if you're watching a crime show, and that's really good.
Yes, it does. So yes, that is the end of this episode. We thank.
I do have a question.
Yes.
How many runs did it take you to kill Hades?
I don't really remember. I mean,
you were blazing through the game. I was like, what surgery did they do to you? They locked you. They stitched the controller to your hands. So you never stopped.
I mean, I think it. I would have to go into the thing, and check how many times I died.
Okay.
I believe maybe 20 times. I died.
It took me 22 times.
Okay, so something similar.
It took me like 40. No. But I die a lot, like an idiot. Same thing for Returnal. I think that we have a friend in common, Fabio and I, called Carlos, and he finished Returnal at the 12th run.
Damn.
And then for me, it took me 50. At some point, I wasn't even fucking counting. It was this is a gacha game for me now.
Yeah. I think I finished Returnal with about 16 or I don't know. I don't really remember. Right now, I mean, I made the mistake of platinum that game, and now it says 50 or.
Now you hate it.
I do.
Now you hate it.
I do. But it's partly my fault, partly Housemarque's fault. But yes.
Exactly.
So, guys, we've reached the end of the episode. I thank you both for being here, especially Fabio, who's the first time he's come. And I just want to give you the chance to sell what you sell, or what's plug what you need to plug. So here it is, the moment.
Well, I have another podcast with 2 other friends. It's in Spanish. It's called Gaming Enough. You can find us at Gaming Enough on YouTube or any other social media, really. Just 3 friends like we are right now talking about games. And if you have the time, if you would like to check it out, you can do it. And that is all.
It will be on the description as well.
Perfect.
And from my side, you can go to hammerspacepodcast.com and check out my stuff.
Please
find out for yourself what I do.
Yeah, find out if it's real that this guy even speaks Spanish, because I've never seen it, so I don't really know.
Me neither. I don't remember ever saying a word in Spanish.
So if you like this episode, please like and subscribe. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate also your input. If you want to write in here what you think about the state of the video games media, if you think we missed something, if you think we mischaracterized something, we would love to include you in maybe next show and say, hey, remember last show when we said this? Well, this guy said that. So let's blah, blah, blah. We can do that if you want, but only if you participate. If you don't participate, then what's the point? Okay, so we'll see you in the next episode of New Game Experience, and good luck.